Hey everybody, this is Post-Production Pi and welcome to part 2 of our author training series, which we're making available on srlounge.com and on YouTube as a free video for everybody to learn kind of how do we create these screen captures and edits so you guys can create your own edits and tutorials or whatever. If they're great, by the way, send them to us. We'll feature them on SR Lounge as well. But let's get started. In the last tutorial, we finished up recording that screen capture, and in this tutorial, we're going to go through and actually edit it. So if you didn't watch the last one, be sure to watch the last video because it's going to explain how we got to this point. Now, what we're going to do first is bring up Camtasia Studio 8. And so let me type in Camtasia. It's the easiest way. I should just drag and drop these things in my toolbar, but I've reinstalled this version of Windows multiple times recently. And that's the benefit of being on Windows, guys. We get to reinstall things all the time. So I'm going to click Camtasia Studio 8. And once again, we have both versions, Camtasia Studio 8 and 7. We bought both versions, and well, we didn't buy them intentionally, but we bought version 7 a while back, and then we bought version 8. We realized that there's benefits to both, and so we keep both and we use each one, just depending on kind of what we're doing. I'm going to kind of go over everything too, so you guys know exactly what those differences are, so you can choose which one to use in which situation. Now, we've brought up Camtasia over here to our left, and now what we need to do is drop in our clips that we've basically recorded in the previous tutorial. So what I like to do, I know there's multiple ways of doing this. You can go to the File menu and click Open, but I like to do this just from the Windows browser itself. So I'm just going to go and hit Camtasia Recording and Editing. That's where we dropped everything. This is the tutorial that we specifically created. So I'm going to click on that. And now we're going to grab these two videos and we're going to drop them in, and we're going to go through the process of putting together and exporting this tutorial. So let's grab them and drop them into the timeline. What I like to do is just do both at the same time. So we had two parts of this. We had the one where we did the recording, and then the very end piece where we saved it out. Now, regarding editing dimensions, this is one of those major differences between Camtasia Studio version 8 and version 7. In version 8, we can leave the editing dimensions at the recording dimensions of full 1080p HD, and we can edit in that just fine, save it out just fine, and it'll work great. In Camtasia Studio 7, editing in this dimension would often basically create issues when you go to export it. It would crash, or it would crash while you're working in it. It just didn't work that well. So for people using Camtasia Studio version 7, I'd highly recommend you guys keep your editing dimension at 1280 by 720p. Then when you export, you can actually choose to go higher resolution. So you can go full 1080p at that point if you want to when you export, and it's still going to be 1080p video because your source files were 1080p. This is specifically just choosing your actual working space that you see in this window here, not the final output of the file. Okay, just remember that. So because we're in Camtasia Studio 8, we're going to select 1080p because it's going to work just fine in that resolution. Now we have our little timeline scrubber right here. We can move it back and forth. We've dragged in that first clip. By holding Control and zooming out or scrolling with the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out of your timeline. You can also use this little zoom button over here on the left side as well. Let's take our second clip. Let's drag that into our timeline as well, so we have both in our working space. And I'm going to move that onto the same track so they're not on different tracks. And you'll notice that during the recording process, one thing that I like to do is basically I kind of will speak a little bit slower and leave gaps between sentences intentionally. I like to leave a little bit of space between a sentence for several reasons. One, it helps the viewer or the person that's watching the video to be able to move along with the flow of the video at a good pace. If you talk too fast, there's no gaps and no spaces between sentences, then it becomes really busy and it's really quick and it's hard for them to basically keep up. Now, if you go too slow, on the other hand, it can also be kind of irritating because those that want to go faster will want to go faster. So remember that you're recording a video. You don't need to go super slow because if someone misses something, they can go back and watch it. But if you go too fast, you're going to lose your viewer. And also when you get into the editing side, it's going to be difficult to piece clips together where you might have messed up because there's no gaps and no spaces. So leaving those spaces and that time between these sentences gives me the opportunity to basically go back and edit something in if I need to. And it also makes it really easy to see on the timeline because every time I see a gap like this, I'm going to go back and watch that gap, make sure it's not an error. If it is an error, I just go and quickly replace it. So it's something that's easy to do, and basically you'll see exactly where you need to fix inside of your editing window. Now, one thing I would also recommend is edit your Camtasia videos right after you record them. If you wait a couple days or if you have someone else do the editing for you, That's fine if you have someone else do the editing for you, but just know that they're going to have to watch the entire thing from start to finish to make sure that they've caught everything. Same thing, if you wait even a couple hours or a few days to go back and do the editing, you're going to forget where you've messed up, and you're going to have to watch the whole thing again to be able to know where you screwed up. One thing I also like to do is if I make several mess ups at once, I want to keep going with the video, a lot of times if I make several mess ups at the beginning of a video, I'll just hit delete and restart. But if I mess up several times during a video and I want to keep it, a lot of times I'll just clap. So you clap kind of loud, just like this. That way it shows up on the track as this loud piece of audio where it's clipping, and you know that you go to that point and have something there to fix, okay? So let's get started. There are going to be a few additional differences between Camtasia version 8 and version 7, which we're going to explain right now. But we're going to start with the beginning. And notice how we have the system audio here. So the system audio recorded any sounds that Windows or your Mac OS basically played during that recording. I don't need it for the purpose of this video, and this is why I always record it, because if I do need it, it's simple to keep, and if I don't need it, I just select it and hit delete on my keyboard and it's gone. Okay, so it's something that's easy to remove. We're going to start from the beginning of our clip, and I'm just going to scrub over to where I see the audio kind of jumping up, and that looks like where we started. I'm going to hit play.
Hello.
And that's exactly where it started. I'm going to turn down my audio actually so that it's not blasting. Okay, so I'm hitting spacebar.
Hello.
And let me turn it down even more. All right, so I'm hitting spacebar just to hit play, and then we're just going to go through and kind of watch it. So I'm going to select the clip, and then we're going to hit S to split off that beginning piece because we don't need this blank space at the beginning of the video. We're going to select it and hit delete, and it removes it. Now the nice thing about Camtasia 7 was that it would automatically ripple delete any sequences or clips that you cut out of your video. This was good and bad because it would automatically ripple delete, and when you did want to ripple delete, which was most of the time, it would automatically ripple delete for you. But when you didn't want to ripple delete, you didn't have an option to turn it off, basically. In Camtasia 8, so far there is no option to ripple delete. We've seen on the forums that they had, like, one guy posted, he's like, oh, try this. He was one of the tech guys, and it still didn't work. So there's no ripple delete in 8, which is kind of crappy, but one of those things you kind of have to deal with. So let's just hit space.
Hello everyone, this is Pi with srlounge.com. Now
we can hear it playing back just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out just a bit, and I'm going to start skipping to these areas where we have these blank gaps, and then play over them to make sure there's no problems.
Them online, but we've gotten so many questions.
Okay, that's a normal space.
Stuff that we thought, why not make this
a normal space?
So in this training.
Okay, those are all normal spaces. And so you can see how easy it would be in those normal spaces to be able to cut in another clip if necessary. The other reason why I often don't use video capture when I'm doing my screen captures is because if you have to cut a piece, you're always going to be able to see that cut in the video itself, okay? Another reason to not use video when you don't necessarily need it. Let's keep going. Let's see. That's a normal gap right there. I don't think we made too many mess ups in this video. Let's check out here.
So let me find a hat. I'm going to grab this little trucker cap that I've got, and I'm going to put on a hat. Because
if I did want to remove this, I would, but some things like this are kind of funny. You just leave them in there just for the sake of leaving them in there.
This little trucker cap that I've got, and now
let's see. This is when that pops up. You can see me in the recording. Let's keep going. Looks like there's a gap right here. Let's see what that is.
Small part of this overall landscape image.
Okay. Here's a gap where I was probably thinking about what I wanted to say next or whatever, so I'll just stop for a second and I'll just basically think about whatever I want to say. All right, so we're going to record this and we're going to remove that gap, and what we do is we just select the clip in the timeline, we hit S to split it, we go forward with the scrubber to where we start, or we're about to start talking, select the clip again, hit S to split it again, we delete out this little piece. This is where Camtasia 7 was really nice, because when you delete this, it automatically pulls over this right clip and anything to the right because it ripple deletes. But it doesn't do it in this one, so we're going to have to basically move it manually. And I've tried hitting, I think they said hit shift delete or control delete, and it still doesn't work on my side. So I don't know. If you guys get it to work, let me know, because maybe they'll update it in one of the new versions and it'll actually ripple delete again.
With contrast,
okay, so we're going to keep going through.
Start with a medium boost, and then we'll add more if we need to. With blacks, I'm going to go and do a medium.
Now there's certain options. I want to show you guys the zoom and pan option. You'll see that I'm actually getting into the editing portion here, and if we wanted to, we can do a zoom and pan. And what that is if I click this option here, I can actually specify and zoom in on a certain area of my screen. Now, zooming and panning inside of Camtasia is much better than saving out this image and then zooming in, or saving out this video and then zooming and panning in another editing program. The reason why is that when you zoom and pan inside of Camtasia, the way that this codec and Camtasia system is set up is that that zoom is going to be, it's going to basically enhance the screen at the same time. So you can see that even though we've zoomed, it's still very sharp and clear. If you zoom inside of Premiere or inside of any other video editing program, then you're not going to have that kind of nice clear look to it. Okay, so you can see that we basically zoom in at this point. If I play it black, or play it back, not play it black, you can see that we've zoomed in. But the problem is that since we're doing basically Lightroom edits, you want to be able to see what you're actually doing in the right side. And that's why we keep it full screen the whole time. But if there's something you're doing, let's say if you want to go and zoom into a specific area, let's say you're doing a Photoshop tutorial, you need to zoom in and show details of what you're doing close up. Then the zoom option would be great. You can choose the scale, you can adjust it, and basically you can even zoom into, let me see if I zoom in my clip a little bit more. Let's get in there. We can even see that we can adjust the animation of it to either extend out the time and duration it takes to zoom into a clip. We can delete it just by clicking it and selecting delete, and clicking this one and selecting delete. We can also adjust the size by moving your point over this, and you can adjust the scale and opacity and everything of that zoom. All right, I'm going to delete it out because we don't need the zoom, and we're just going to leave it where it's at. But that is an option that's there. Another great option, and this is going to be necessary when authors are creating videos for our DVDs. On our DVDs, we always use callouts for all the shortcuts. So when I say hit F or hit Control W, or if I, well, don't hit Control W because that'll close your screen. But if I say these shortcuts on doing whatever, you're going to use the callouts that we have, or sorry, in our library. They're library callouts, and we've saved out each one of these into different, ones. So these are the SR Lounge callouts, and I don't think they've been resized yet for Camtasia 8. So I think they're still the old ones. Yeah, you can see the text is a little bit small, but this is what a callout does: is it drops this over the screen. We've created each one of these specifically for every single function inside of Lightroom and Photoshop and all that. And once these get resized, you'd basically drag and drop a callout over that portion in the video. And then when you play back the video, it'll have that callout.
Pulls it down right away, and now I know with a medium boost, and then we'll
so you'll see it fade in and then fade out.
With blacks, I'm going to go and do a medium darken, and we can see that that pulls it down right away. And now I know that with my...
Now, of course, we want to move it into a position where it wouldn't be in the way, and so we typically will move it down to the bottom right. And this is just an example because obviously right now this isn't the right function, and I haven't even mentioned a hotkey anyway. But just an example of showing you how to use callouts. You can create callouts just by using this, and once you've created a callout in your basically feature over here, you can actually go and save it to your library. And Camtasia actually comes with tons of callouts that just come standard. So these are custom ones that we've made, but you guys can just use the standard ones or make custom ones as well. Again, you can zoom in, drag out the callout itself, so you can drag out the duration. You can drag out the fade duration, so it fades either quicker or slower. And you can make those kind of adjustments here, or select the callout and just delete it, which is what I'm going to do now. Okay, let's keep going with our edit. It looks like there's no other major mess ups here. So if I go through, and let's see.
Now with presence, we're adding 30 clear.
I'm just skipping to any place that I think there could be a break. And that's another reason why you might want to clap whenever you mess up or something, because you will see that spike in your audio, and you know that that's an area that you want to go revisit and make sure you edit out. But I think we did good. I don't think there was more than one mess up in this video, which is awesome because that was like 20 minutes long. All right, let's go over here to the second piece. So here's our second recording, and you can see that in our clip bin we have Camtasia 2. This is the part where we basically get to saving out the video that we created. So what I'm going to do is drag this and make it connect right there. I'm going to select the system audio. You can see that there is one clip right here. So when I actually, let me undo that. I'm going to hit Control Z just to undo that move. And let's watch what that system audio was. It was probably that error that popped up.
Just to see where everything's at. You can make...
Oh no, it's something weird. What was that?
Just to choose where everything...
Okay, we definitely want to delete that. I don't know what that was. So let's delete that out. And then what we're going to do is just move that clip so it touches with the other one so it's in sync. We're going to go to the end of this one. So let's watch the end.
Saving out and editing of this tutorial.
Okay, then we're going to go to the beginning of this one.
All right, so I'm actually going to record. All right, so
so I messed up there and I left a space.
All right, so I'm going to use Camtasia 7.
Okay, so we're going to go right here. I'm going to select this clip, hit S to split it off, delete this first chunk by selecting it and hitting delete. and drag it in so it touches. Now let's go play back.
All right, so I've brought up Camtasia 7, the recorder, so that because previously we were using Camtasia 8, we can't have the same version of recorder open at the same time.
We're good. Let's keep scrolling forward. Let's check out our gaps and make sure everything's good.
What you can do from here is you can...
That one's good.
So we have a couple different...
Okay, right here I might have swallowed it. This is the thing is if you swallow or, burp or whatever, sometimes it happens, okay? So whatever it is, just go back to that point or cough or sneeze. There's more than just swallowing and burping. But if you mess up at one point, just go back, leave a gap, and then just go and delete that out. So basically you're good. Okay. One thing I'd highly recommend is don't move the mouse and move the screen when you don't need to. I always, whenever I'm talking to you guys, and you'll notice like right now, I have my hand off of the mouse because if I make a mistake at this point in time and I've been moving my mouse around like this, and then I cut to another point, or if I've moved the screen to another point unnecessarily, well, that cut is going to not seem seamless. So I'm always leaving my mouse stationary whenever I am talking or describing something. That way, if I mess up, leave your mouse and screen stationary. That way, if you mess up when you cut that clip back in, it looks like it's seamless. There was no mistakes. You just kind of kept going. So just one extra tip for you guys.
A couple different options. Once again, we can delete from here, but
okay, we're good there. Let's keep going over forward.
So with saving,
okay, we're good there. So all these spaces are good. Now we can see a full space right there. That looks like a mistake.
This is video number 1, which is recording a...
Okay, we can see, looks like probably on my outro. Sometimes on my outros, I'll do 2 or 3 different versions because I might have forgotten to do one thing or say one thing. So let's check it out.
That's great. Usually with the file name itself.
Let's go to the end.
Chronological order. All right. So close that down.
Okay, so I kind of messed up. So close that down. That's weird. So let's go and see the second one.
I thought I messed up this part. I saw this dialog box pop back. I'm like, was this not recording the end?
Okay, so this is what happened is right here. I'm going to double click. By the way, if you click here on your little slider on your scrub tool and you kind of select something like this, but you want to go back to moving these flags, the left and right flags back to the scrubber, just double click on your scrub tool and it'll bring them back where it was. Okay. So right here, I thought I messed up because what happened was if you
1, 2, 3, so on.
If you watch what happens, I bring up the video.
So close that down.
And it looked like I had 2 recorders up, and it looked like basically I wasn't recording this video the entire time. And I was like, oh crap, I have to do this whole thing over again because I didn't record that last saving out part. But then I saw there was just 2 recorders popping up, and it was actually okay. So if we want, we can take this out, and let's actually do that just because it's kind of a piece that we don't need to keep in there.
Chronological order. All right. So close that down.
Okay, so let's go over here.
All right, so at this point, we have saved out the Camtasia screen capture, and now what we need to do is go through.
Okay, so we've already saved it, and this piece we don't really need, so let's see.
In chronological order. All right. So
okay, so right here, I'm going to zoom in. And whenever you're clipping over audio or whenever you're cutting a clip basically over audio that there's not a big gap, make sure you're cutting it in between words, okay? And zoom in as far as you need to be able to see that. If we cut over a word, you're gonna have a really weird transition.
All right, so close that down.
Okay, so right here, I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna hit splice, hit S. We're gonna zoom out. I'm gonna go to that final piece where it looks like I got it right. And we're going to cut out that whole little mumbo jumbo of me talking through, I thought I messed up and all that kind of stuff because it's not necessary to keep. Okay, so right here I'm going to click S. We're going to select our piece that we split off and delete it. Move our track over so it connects and let's play it back.
All right. All right, so at this point we have saved out the Camtasia screen capture.
So I don't need that piece right there, that little all right. So I'm going to cut that out as well. There's going to be a little gap here, but that's okay because we're doing kind of screen capture of screen capture and this kind of thing is going to happen.
All right, so at this point we have saved.
But it's pretty seamless still.
All right, so at this point we have saved out the Camtasia screen capture, and now what we need to do is go through and actually edit it. And for that, we're going to go into the next tutorial. So at this point,
okay, so this is the tutorial I'm talking about, with the one we're going to edit
in Camtasia Studio. Great job, guys, and let's go on to the next part of this tutorial.
Great. So we're all done at this point. Now, at this point, this track is done and it's ready to render out. I want to go into the next video to basically show you guys that part because this one's already gotten rather long. But we have the entire track here. What I like to do is at this point I'll hit Control A to select everything. If you're not going to add anything additional onto the front, then you just bring this and pull it all the way over to the left so that way you don't start the video with a bunch of blank space. Okay, but if this is for SR Lounge, at this point you'd always drop in. So authors, you're always going to drop in our bumper for SR Lounge. And you want to pick the bumper that's kind of related to whatever the video is. So for example, let's just pick this bumper that's for, it talks about Lightroom and let's see which one, this one. So it talks about Lightroom and shows the SR Lounge logo. I'm going to bring it into my clips. So we have it in the videos. And now I'm going to drag it into the timeline. And then I'm going to pull it down just so it's on the same track. Select everything else by hitting Control A or Command A on a Mac. I'm going to deselect while holding Control that first clip. I'm just going to drag these over to the left. And so that way now we have our bumper. So this is what happens. Now it brings up our logo. And then it goes right into the video.
Hello everyone, this is Pi with srlounge.com.
Okay, so at this point, this video is actually done. It's ready to render out and save and produce and share. Well, that's all the same process, by the way, that I just said right there. Okay, so we're done. Make sure one thing, guys, I forgot to do this, but I'm gonna hit Control S right now just to save out my project itself. This is the Camtasia project file where if you need to come back to this video, do any additional editing and save it out as something else, you're gonna need this project file. And I forgot to do this at the beginning, but typically what I'll do is I'll save out this project file at the beginning and hit Control S throughout your edit. That way, just in case something crashes, you haven't lost all your work that we just did. So I'm going to go into Author Training, into Camtasia Recording and Editing, into that Recording and Camtasia Screen Capture, and I'm going to save this. Actually, this is the editing portion. So let's go to 02, Editing a Camtasia Screen Capture. Whoops. We're going to save this out as our Camtasia project file. Hit save, and now we've saved out the project file itself, but not the video. The video we have to produce and share, and we're going to go on and do that in the next tutorial. I'm going to go to my recording. We're going to hit stop now, and it's time to go on to the next tutorial.